It was right after I bought a house with a yard. Kent and Sandra came over with smirks, suddenly declaring cohabitation.
Mom and sis are moving in, too.
If you don't like it, I will make you divorce my son.
If my mother-in-law, Sandra, is coming, that means my sister-in-law, Wendy, must be coming. They do this knowing that I don't like it. The daily harassment is sure to continue even after the move. I couldn't help but shudder. I don't want to. I have no intention of cohabitating over there.
You don't seem to understand your position, huh?
Sandra raised her eyebrows. She pulled out a divorce form. Moreover, the husband's section was already signed. It said on Sandra's face that once she got the house, nothing else mattered. The strategy worked so perfectly it's scary. I struggled to hold back my laughter. I wonder how I must look. Trembling and bowing, Sandra looked triumphant. Quietly, I signed the divorce papers, packed my things, and left the dreaded in-laws house behind. Sandra made a harassing call on moving day. You've noticed? Sandra demanded to meet and talk. Just what I wanted? Let's meet and give them a piece of my mind face to face. I headed to the battlefield after meticulously preparing to discipline them. My name is Veronica. I work as an office worker at an advertising agency. It was the chief editor of the newspaper who introduced me to my husband, Kent. In my vulnerable position, I couldn't refuse the chief editor's offer. At the age of 29 at the time, after 6 months of dating, I succumbed to Kent's persistence and got married. I would curse myself for making the wrong decision at a crucial moment for a long time afterward. I think my mother-in-law, Sandra, intended to deceive me from the beginning. She seemed gentle and kind, but her attitude changed completely when I became her daughter-in-law. She discarded the mask of a nice older woman and revealed her true nature as a demon mother-in-law.
Hey Veronica, what are you doing? Didn't I tell you to do the dishes and then weed the garden?
Not a day goes by without Sandra's shrill voice echoing in the in-laws house. I'm tired every day. It's all I can do to sigh and respond. After marriage, I accepted living with my in-laws at Kent's insistence. My father-in-law passed away due to illness, and Sandra has been suffering from a leg injury for years. He begged me not to leave his elderly mother alone in her old home. However, when I opened the lid, what did I find? Sandra, who should have had a painful foot, walks around without any problems. She insists that it's a daughter-in-law's duty to educate her and treats me harshly every day. Ken stayed out of the mother-in-law's relationship. Even if I express my desire to live separately, he just makes excuses and avoids the issue. He's always under his mother's thumb, and he didn't protect me.
Sorry, but my mother are kinda hot-headed.
Don't just stand there laughing. Help me out. I'm going through a lot too, you know? After getting married, I started feeling strong anxiety and depression. Before I knew it, I'd find myself crying and my chest suddenly felt tight. After getting checked out at a specialized hospital, the diagnosis I got from the doctor was adjustment disorder. I felt really uncomfortable knowing that the daily grind at my in-laws' place was affecting me negatively. Despite my feelings, Sandra kept making nothing but harsh demands as usual.
Just because it's your day off doesn't mean you can slack off. You hear me? Did you finish cleaning the room? Haven't you gone shopping yet? Check out the discounts at the store before you go.
Wait, hold on, Sandra. Please, could you stop bombarding me like this? I have a headache. I'll get the cleaning and shopping done properly later.
Don't be so spoiled. If you're told to do something, do it right away. You're my daughter-in-law.
I wanted to retort that I'm not their housekeeper. One of Sandra's most frequent demands was related to the house itself. Clean the gutters, redo the wallpaper, fix the splintered beams. The in-laws' house is really old, and it's falling apart in various places. Every time the wind blows, it creaks and sways. Sandra keeps pushing Kent to hurry up and get a new house.
First of all, this is a rental. We're getting it cheap from an acquaintance. Don't you want to try living freely in your own real home even once? Kent feels the same way, right?
I do, but with my take-home pay, it's impossible. A home of our own is just a pipe dream.
Sandra gets frustrated with her useless son. Of course, that irritation gets directed at me. Cook, clean, weed the garden, take her to the hospital. Despite me being exhausted from working full-time, she doesn't care one bit. It'd be weird if I didn't end up with an adjustment disorder with days like these. It was hard for me to bear every day. After living with my in-laws for half a year, a woman came along to make my already tough life even tougher. It was my sister-in-law, Wendy, who returned with her kids after getting divorced. Apparently, she got kicked out after being told, "I don't want to see your face anymore."
Well, it's my fault. I neglected my kids and fooled around with my husband's boss.
What's up with this woman's sense of ethics? Seeing my obvious discomfort, Wendy smirked. She looked just like Sandra and acted just like her, too. She didn't lift a finger to help with the housework and even made me clean her room.
It can't be helped, right? I'm busy raising kids, you know. You wouldn't understand if you've never given birth. It's harder than it looks, you know. So, sis, help me out.
Wendy doesn't have a job. She lounges around all day. Taking care of the kids is barely on her radar. She just sprawls out on the couch all day. Her behavior on weekends is especially egregious. She'd leave her young daughter with me and go play poker. Wendy used to be quite wild, and apparently she still hangs out with a rough crowd, sometimes drinking from noon. If only she'd help out a bit with the housework. But Wendy really does nothing. She would do anything to get money to play. And then something happened. One day, Wendy handed me a pouch, and I wondered what it could be.
It's stuff like my dad's cufflinks, rings, vintage lighters, and such.
What do you want me to do with these?
Geez, you're clueless. Sell them off. But make sure you get a good price, okay?
Belongings of her deceased father. They're supposed to be keepsakes after all. Wendy nonchalantly telling me to sell them. It made me feel quite sad. Knowing she'd use the money from selling them to go play poker made it even more depressing. I just couldn't bring myself to do it, so I explained the situation and handed the whole pouch over to Kent. I don't know what he did with his father's keepsakes afterward, and frankly, I don't want to know. A lot of things happened back when Wendy just moved back in. I started losing my belongings frequently ever since she showed up. It was around that time when I found out Kent was cheating. A friend of mine who works at a different advertising agency happened to see him on the street one weekend. Kent was walking arm in arm with a flashy-looking young woman. When I heard about it, I was furious. Hey, I am working my butt off from morning till night, even on weekends, and you're out having fun with a young girl? Unbelievable. It's cheating, right? Who is she? Where is she from? Tell me honestly.
Wait, it's not cheating. She's just a prostitute.
And is that okay? A married man like you shouldn't be going to places like that. Wendy was laughing uproariously as she watched our exchange. Sandra seemed visibly exasperated but didn't lay into Kent too hard. According to Sandra's standards, Kent going to those kinds of places is because his wife isn't devoted enough.
Don't make a fuss. You're at fault here. As the wife, if you were more devoted to Kent, this wouldn't happen, you know.
I don't think so. It's a bit too unreasonable.
Well, that's just how it is in this household. Besides, going to places like that or cheating, it's like a man's way of proving himself. You know, a wife's duty is to forgive it with a big heart. You're a terrible wife.
My standards seemed like her nonsense. Allowed cheating and going to a brothel. No way. My frustration only grew. I couldn't just sit idle by like this. To somehow change this unpleasant situation, I decided to take proactive steps. Even after that, Sandra and Wendy remained the same as ever. Day after day, They treated me like a servant. They'd lounge around on the couch or the floor, and when they got hungry, they'd snap at me.
Hey, why isn't lunch ready yet? It's already noon, you know.
Hurry up. Seriously, sis, you're so slow.
Well then, why don't you make it yourselves? I'm constantly busy doing yard work, hanging out laundry, shopping. I don't even have time to rest.
Don't talk back like that. You remember your place as a daughter-in-law.
I wasn't even allowed to voice my opinion. Frankly, it was getting tiresome. I just wanted to divorce. But if things were that easy, I wouldn't have struggled like this. Kent was introduced to me by the chief editor at the newspaper where I work. I was asked by my boss not to do anything that would damage his reputation. Infuriatingly, Sandra knew all about this and often brought it up. I felt completely trapped. Days of enduring seemed to stretch on endlessly. Then, one day, Kent's affair became undeniable. A friend from a rival advertising agency had obtained irrefutable evidence. The first stage of preparation is complete. I need to make the next move. It was about a month later. Wendy spread out a housing catalog on the dinner table. It was undoubtedly something I had kept in my bag.
Check this out. Looks like Veronica is planning to buy a house.
Hold on. Did you go through my bag? Why would you do something like that?
Oh, just shut it. It's a bit rural, but not a bad house.
Hey, Veronica, you gotta consult me about this kind of stuff, you know.
The one I had my eye on was a detached house with a garden. As Sandra said, it's rural, but it's quite a good property. Truth be told, I've been to the site several times and met with a real estate agent. When I honestly disclosed this, the three of them got even more interested.
What? Wait, is the conversation already at that point? Are you seriously buying it?
It's cheap, spacious, not bad. Huh, Kent, you need guts, man.
Oh man, but a detached house with a garden, huh? It's a tough decision.
If you're gonna be the master of your own kingdom, I will support you. I'll even chip in a bit. Aren't you going to leave this house with Veronica?
Without me having to do anything, Sandra goaded Kent on. What a shameless way to put it, as if she's planning to let me go that easily. When I asked about whose name the house would be under if we bought it, Kent furrowed his brow.
I'm the head of the household, ain't I? It'll be in my name, obviously.
So, does that mean we can proceed? Are you planning to buy this house and move out together?
Yay, got it. I'm a man. I'll buy that house. Let's move this along, all right.
Kent finally said firmly. Sandra and Wendy both praised his decision, but I didn't miss it when the two of them exchanged glances and laughed. A few days later, we purchased the detached house with a garden in the countryside as planned, just like that. Kent and Sandra came over with smirks, suddenly declaring cohabitation.
Mom and sis are moving in, too.
But the plan was for me to move out with Kent, and just the two of us live here.
After thinking it over, we've decided to live together after all. You wouldn't say no, right? If you do, I will make you divorce my son. Wonder what your boss would say.
There it was. What a sneaky move. If Sandra's coming, there's no way Wendy wouldn't tag along. Thinking about the harassment that was sure to continue even at the new place, I shuddered. Absolutely not. I have absolutely no intention of living with them over there.
What are you saying? Seems like you don't understand your position.
Sandra raised her eyebrows. Her expression was angry. With veins bulging on her temples, she pulled out a divorce paper, and the husband's section was already signed. It said that once she got the house, nothing else mattered.
If you absolutely hate it, then sign here. Come on.
Yeah, fine, I'll sign it. I'll go through with the divorce. I've had enough.
Wait, Veronica, are you sure about this?
Kent, leave her alone. Living with such a useless, cheeky woman just pisses me off. If you were younger, you'd find a new wife in no time.
What a horrible way to talk. I calmly signed the divorce papers. Sandra was triumphantly victorious. Without even knowing how I felt, the strategy worked so perfectly it was scary. I struggled to hold back my laughter. A few days after I moved into my new apartment, Sandra called me incessantly on my phone. When I checked the calendar, it was exactly as I suspected. Today was their moving day. Have you realized? The ringtone wouldn't stop, relentless, just like Sandra. Even if I ignored it, she kept calling over and over. Since she was so persistent, I reluctantly answered the call. Sandra started shouting without even greeting me.
Hey, you, how dare you do this to us? How could you let us buy such a property?
Long time no see, Sandra. Please calm down. What are you even talking about? I don't quite understand what you're saying.
Don't play dumb. I'm talking about this house. You knew it was a defective property when you bought it, didn't you? That's obvious.
She was right. There were problems with the house I chose. The ground itself was weak, and the land often subsided. Even if it was a new construction, within a few years, doors and sliding doors might not close properly. It seems that there's a coal mining tunnel running nearby, causing trouble. However, for the locals, that's common knowledge. They build houses on stable ground. The only ones troubled by it are naive newcomers who come without knowing anything about it. This time, I trapped those three using a house with such problems. It was tough to find a defective house at an affordable price, even with the real estate agent's help. Of course, I intentionally orchestrated Wendy stealing the real estate catalog from my bag. She easily caught her eye and purposely left her bag in an easy-to-steal position. Unaware, they fell right into the trap and moved out, just as planned. It was tough to hold back laughter while signing the divorce papers. I wanted to spill everything, but it wasn't possible. I played dumb. A defective home. That can't be right. Are you sure there's not some mistake?
What's with that tone? So condescending. Anyway, come over here for a moment.
No thanks. Honestly, I don't ever want to see you guys again.
What did you say?
I have no desire to meet that monster family who doesn't understand common sense. I told them I wouldn't even if they paid me. In place of Sandra, who clicked her tongue, Kent stepped in.
Hey Veronica, please, just consider my feelings a bit, will you?
I will return those words to you. Have you ever considered my feelings even a little? I've been isolated all this time.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Hey, where are you moving to?
I won't tell you. If you were to come barging in, I'd have to move again. Anyway, I want to cut ties with you guys. The discussion remained at a standstill. Eventually, Sandra and the others started saying even more self-centered things. They claimed the divorce was invalid and insisted they were still family. I had 2 colleagues sign as witnesses on the divorce papers and submitted them to the court. Invalid divorce? There's no way. How unreasonable can these people get?
Anyway, let's just meet and talk once. We can't leave things like this, right?
I'm asking you too, Veronica. Just once, okay? Let's settle this once and for all.
No matter what, even if I declined Sandra and Kent's request to meet and talk, they would surely call me again. Well, if it comes to this, I have no choice. I'll meet them and settle things my way. Fine, I'll do it. I'll meet you just once.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
But I'll be the one to choose the time and place, okay? I wouldn't want to be ambushed or followed. If I don't get the upper hand, the next one is terrifying. After thorough preparation, I called the 3 of them to a certain cafe. I arrived at the designated cafe 20 minutes late. Sandra and Wendy, who were kept waiting by me, were already fuming. Kent was wearing a wry smile. They were exactly as I expected.
How dare you keep us waiting? What's your intention? It's truly outrageous.
I don't want to hear about common sense from you. What do you want?
What's with your attitude? It's infuriating. Seriously, because of you, we got stuck with the defective home, and it's been nothing but trouble. Take responsibility.
I told you, I don't know anything about it. It was your idea to move in together, wasn't it? Sandra faltered. Seems like she couldn't deny that. She and Wendy jumped into that defective home voluntarily. Their previous residence was apparently undergoing renovations by the owner, so aside from that defective home, they had nowhere else to go. If your demands are over, then it's my turn to speak. Sandra, I'm going to sue you for damages. I'll file a complaint. Be prepared.
What? Damages? Complaint? Why would you do that? I don't understand. What did I do to you?
You mentally tormented me until I developed an adjustment disorder. I showed them a copy of the diagnosis I got from the hospital. The three of them stared at it intently. Sandra's eyes were particularly round. She probably never even imagined that I had been seeing a psychiatrist. You never once thought about how much your hurtful words were affecting me, did you? It was really tough for me. I felt nauseous. I cried. It was really rough.
So, it's because you're weak, right? And besides, it's because you're such a terrible daughter-in-law I said those things, right? Isn't that it?
That's part of it too. Calling me a terrible daughter-in-law. You said it so many times, but that falls under defamation. You could get up to a year in prison or a fine of up to $3,000, you know?
That's way over the top.
What's over the top about it? Sandra doesn't understand a thing. She doesn't realize how simple her actions have been, how bad it is to torment someone with hurtful words. You've also done things that could be subject to criminal penalties. Sandra, you threatened me multiple times, saying you'd tell my boss about the divorce, didn't you? That falls under coercion.
Hey, do you have to make everything so dramatic?
It's not dramatic at all. By the way, the statutory penalty for coercion is up to 2 years in prison or a fine of up to $3,000. I won't back down, okay?
Hold on a second.
Wendy interjected. Her gaze at me was sharper than usual. She had a face like a former delinquent. It was an expression that said she wouldn't be intimidated by such threats.
What's with all this talk? You've been taking advantage of my mom's ignorance and scaring her, haven't you? Do you have any evidence that she insulted you or threatened you?
I do have evidence. I've been recording everything.
Recording?
Yes, I've been keeping the voice memo on my phone running the whole time. Ever since I've been staying at my former in-laws, there's quite a bit of audio saved. I've even extracted the parts where Sandra showered me with verbal abuse. If I submit that as evidence, there's no doubt defamation and coercion will be established. Did you think I was just going to take everything lying down? It's not just Sandra. Wendy, it applies to you too. You'll likely be held accountable.
Why me? What did I do? What are you talking about?
Why don't you think about it for a moment? Did you commit a crime? Or do you not remember doing anything to inconvenience me?
There's no way. Don't treat me like an idiot.
Wendy insists she's innocent, so I showed her the screen of my phone. Immediately, Wendy's face turned pale. Understandably so. What was displayed was her rifling through my bag. The ugly sight of her rummaging through my belongings while looking around furtively.
When did you even record that?
Ever since you came, my things have been disappearing constantly. Cosmetics, accessories, clothes, bags. So I set up hidden cameras.
The worst. What do you think you're doing? Acting on your own like that, as my sister-in-law.
I can't believe it. Who's being selfish here? Shall I tell you the statutory penalty for theft? It's a maximum of 10 years imprisonment or a fine of up to $5,000. I'll report you to the police later. Wendy's mouth flaps open and shut. She wants to retort but can't. Seeing her helpless state, I jot down what of my belongings are missing. Since I know the extent of the damage, both the police and the lawyer will have an easier time. If I decide to take action, I'll go all out. I had already decided not to forgive these three. Now, it's just the last one. Kent, who was being glared at by me, shrugs. In terms of unforgivable feelings, I feel the most unforgiving towards him. I thought that spouses were supposed to help each other out. But Kent, it seems like you had a different idea. You've been against me from the beginning to the end, haven't you?
Well, I didn't mean to be your enemy. Not even a bit. Believe me, even today, I was trying my best to mediate.
Sure, enough with the lies. I don't need your mediation. Kent is a cowardly bat-like guy. He always sides with the stronger party, just like he's been on Sandra and Wendy's side all along. Even now, he's trying to somehow get on my good side and get himself off the hook. If he were a bit more decent, maybe I would have continued the marriage. Maybe I would have lived with just the two of us in a different place. It seems like the name of your mistress is stepmothers.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because I had someone look it up. I have a friend who's good at that sort of thing. There are even photos of you and Flores entering a hotel together. Look, here they are.
No, I don't need to see them. Don't show me.
Kent panicked as I tried to show him the screen of my smartphone. He probably didn't want his mother and sister to see them in the act of cheating. It wouldn't have mattered anyway. When it comes to morals and ethics, all three of them are long gone. They're all cut from the same cloth. Being that kind of family, I packed my smartphone and copies of medical certificates into my bag. There's nothing left for me to show as evidence from my side. Sandra, Kent, and Wendy all seem to have lost their will to resist. If you do something careless, you'll get reported. They seem to be scared like that. But unfortunately for them, I was fully intent on consulting the police even if they did nothing. I expect the police will come knocking at some point. You better not run away. Your charges might get worse. And also, make sure you don't follow me around. Got it?
Veronica, don't say such cold things. We were married until just the other day, weren't we?
Yes, we were. Honestly, I think our marriage was a huge mistake. I feel relieved that we're not husband and wife anymore. If you decide to pursue me, be prepared to face the consequences. Don't ambush me in front of my workplace. Don't contact me unless it's absolutely necessary. I made a few simple promises with the three of them and left the cafe. Even after I left the store, the three of them remained dejected with their heads hung low. Some things are better left unsaid. Kent's divorce story quickly spread around his company. The reason, which was his cheating and bullying of his wife, spread along with it. As a matter of fact, Kent was treated quite coldly within the company. After all, the one who mediated for him was the head of a newspaper company with which they had business dealings. It was only natural that Kent, who had damaged their trust, would be viewed with suspicion. He probably couldn't stand it anymore. Kent eventually resigned. His attempts at finding a new job didn't go well, and he started having tension with his mother and sister. It was about a year after our divorce when he showed up in front of me again. I was stopped on my way home from work, and when I turned around, there stood a disheveled man. Kent, I didn't recognize you.
Yeah, I guess. I've been told I look different lately.
He seemed to be going through a lot recently. Understandable, considering Sandra, Wendy, and him, they were all convicted and fined. I claimed compensation from Kent. They must be in a really tough spot financially now. They still have to pay off the mortgage on their defective house, so it must be quite challenging. How's your mom and Wendy doing?
They're alive. Barely. They are working now. They always say they want their old life back.
You mean the life where they relied on me and you to make ends meet? Sounds like they haven't changed much. Like parasites. Cutting ties with them was definitely the right move, I think. I expected him to say something back, but he didn't. Ken sighed heavily and sincerely apologized to me.
I've been truly awful all this time. I deeply regret it from the bottom of my heart. I was a fool. Veronica was right. I should have been on your side all along. I think I was lost.
You know, your family has been messed up from the start.
Don't say such cold things. Please, let's live together again. I'm serious this time. You're the only one for me.
Oh, how unfortunate. I already have someone else in my life, and it's not you. Even if I didn't have a partner, I'd never want to start over with you again. When I said that firmly, Kent collapsed to his knees right then and there, but a performance to gain sympathy wouldn't work now. If I were a bit less mature, I might have spat in his face right then and there, leaving Kent as he was. I made my way home. He never contacted me after that. I got that information from the real estate agent I had dealt with. Sandra, Kent, and Wendy's lives apparently took a turn for the worse after that. They blamed each other for their impoverished lives, souring their relationship further. They were yelling and breaking glass almost every night from inside the house, insulting each other, tormenting each other, and yet unable to leave each other. It's nothing short of hell. They're so ostracized in the neighborhood that no one wants to associate with them. Soon they'll probably let go of the unsellable house for next to nothing and end up in debt, wandering the streets. I can vividly picture the miserable sight of the three of them huddling together under the cold sky. Someday, I'd like to see them with my own eyes, the rock bottom they've reached. As for me, I'm living happily ever after, as if it were a lie. It's all thanks to my new partner. He's a successful salesman at a major trading company, a mature man with a gentle personality who respects the values of others. He is a divorcee like me. We plan to have a modest wedding ceremony soon. In my first marriage, I suffered immensely. Even now, sometimes I feel like crying when I remember those difficult times. But even then, when I quietly snuggle up to him, my heart warms up right away. This is where I belong. I took the long way around, but I finally made it. I feel that way because of the tough times I've been through. I believe I can be kinder to others from now on. I want to live positively and brightly based on my experience. That's how I feel these days.